Many, many people in this country know that we need experienced leadership. In this time in our country's history, we cannot accept anything else. We need somebody whose credentials are equal to the challenges and the opportunities before us. We need a leader who fits the times, not merely a candidate who thinks it's his time. Since the attacks of September 11th, much has changed. It is a different world. And the President, right after 9/11, provided the global leadership with regard to dealing with terrorism, but there are other national security interests and concerns that have emerged. And clearly, I mentioned a few of those, but there are economic challenges here as well. The global scourge of terrorism, there's the global competition out there that we have to face. Americans have never been afraid to compete. Matter of fact, we thrive on competition. But we also have accepted the notion that it is a much more competitive world economically, and we need a president who understands that and is engaged around the world in diplomatic and military matters, but simultaneously engaged in promoting U.S. goods and services and workers around the world. And there's only one candidate that has the experience of doing both, and that's Senator John McCain. The challenge of our time, ladies and gentlemen, is not simply to change, but to leave nothing to chance. And that is particularly true when electing the next president of the United States. We all know Senator McCain as the soldier's soldier and the citizen soldier, whose duty to country is unequal. We know the mettle of the man who has been tested and triumphed as a prisoner of war in Vietnam, as a member of the United States Congress, and as a statesman who engenders the respect of our friends and allies around the world. I'm proud to be in the same fraternity and sorority as Senator McCain among the 3 million men and women who served in Vietnam. His tour was a lot longer than mine. A lot more hazardous, a lot more perilous, and a lot more painful. But I've been back a couple times. And I remember the first time I went back, I actually went back to Hanoi, because we were going to try to get some of the children who had been fathered by American soldiers, get them back in the United States. They called them Huy Doi, children of the dust. They were outcasts in the Vietnamese society. We worked with a Democrat congressman. We found some NGOs who would want to help us. That's another story. I went back, and the individual who picked me up at the airport was the director of North American Affairs by the name of Mr. Bai, B-I-A. Never forget it. On the way into Hanoi, he bragged that he was the one that saved Senator McCain's life because he parachuted and landed in a lake in the middle of Hanoi. Obviously, I called Senator McCain when I got back and said, John's been a friend of mine for 25 years. I said, I think I found the man who saved your life. I won't tell you exactly what he said. But he alluded to the fact that so-and-so may have been the guy that broke his other arm. But having said that, you know they got a monument next to the lake in his honor? They respect him. They admire him. They admire his courage, they admire his tenacity, they admire his will. Why? Because he gave him a chance to leave early, and he said, I'm not going until all the prisoners of war who are here before me go with me. And they said, we're not going to do that. And he said, I'm not going. And this is the same man who spent the past 20-plus years roaming around the world. He's got great personal relationships, and there's great, enormous admiration and respect of leaders around the world. This is not a time for OJT, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a time for on-the-job training in the area of international affairs and international economics. We need an experienced, proven, admired, respected leader, and that's John McCain. And a group of senators from the country of Brazil came to Pennsylvania during the primary, and I set them up with some Republican friends of mine to see the process, the headquarters, and go to a couple of Democrat rallies. And before they went out for the day, I met with a couple of them, and they said, well, one of them said, if I were living in this country, I would probably vote for the Democrat candidate. I said, you would you? I said, well, that's good. I mean, obviously, you have an opinion. I said, well, let me tell you this. You're from South America, right? Yes, sir. Senator from Brazil. Yep, a couple terms, yep. Now, let me ask you this. In your part of the world, who would you rather have dealing with Chavez? Senator Obama or Senator Clinton? As an internationalist, who would you rather be dealing with Putin? Senator Obama or Senator McCain? Who would you rather dealing with the country of Iran and their leadership? And I went down the list of countries. He finally said, enough. I just changed my vote. Senator McCain would be my vote for President of the United States. John's a good friend. He's also an ardent leader. He's a diplomat. He's a tenacious legislator. He's a stalwart conservative, an astute negotiator, a consensus builder. One candidate is running on very charismatic rhetoric, and the other candidate, our candidate, the next president of the United States, is running on an experience, proven record of accomplishment, achievement, and reaching across the aisle to try to solve problems. That's the kind of president we need for the next 8 years in the country. I don't need to say anymore. I'm going to conclude. You've been sitting here for quite some time. Let me leave with a couple of additional thoughts. When I went back to Southeast Asia and actually stopped in Hong Kong for a bit, way back in the 80s, there was a Vietnamese refugee camp outside Hong Kong, probably about a 45-minute boat ride. It was a piece of volcanic rock, barbed wire around it, and it was housing Vietnamese refugees. And I asked the interpreter to ask this fisherman, who had apparently come in the day before, why he had come in this rickety old boat with a couple relatives, no belongings, and he had left everything in his world to get to this refugee camp. Now, in your world and my world, in the material world, he left nothing behind according to our standards. In his world, he left everything behind. And I asked the interpreter to ask him, why did you leave? Some of your family and everything you own, whatever it might have been. This old fisherman reached into his pocket, he pulled out a piece of yellow plastic, he opened the letter, and ironically the letter was from the son to the father, because the son had made it to the United States of America. And the son wrote to the father and he said, Father, I'm here, I'm prospering. America is a very, very special place. I can't begin to describe the freedoms that I enjoy and the opportunities that are before me. So if you ever get a chance, Father, you got to try to get to the United States. Now, I don't know whether he meant it or not, but I do know one thing. That in his heart and in his head, the notion that you can live in a free society, a transparent society, where we elect our officials, where we govern under the rule of law by men and women who set that rule of law, when decisions are made in an open and public way, when we have vigorous debate, sometimes tough debate, sometimes mean-spirited debate, but we have the debate. That you can succeed, you can fail, and if you fail, you can try again. As a capitalist, as a young entrepreneur, this is a very special place. And although there are people around the world who may not be happy with our policy in Iraq, there's legitimate differences of opinion. Make no mistake about it, they still love the idea of America. They may not be happy with a particular policy or so, but they love the idea of America. I sometimes wonder perhaps if we take all these, that's why that Pledge of Allegiance, when we said it twice today, the first time to remind us that words mean something. And when we say the pledge, we ought to think about the meaning of those words. And how about that incredible rendition of the national anthem? Where words and music, nothing more powerful than a pure voice without the electronic devices or gadgets to warm your heart and to make your soul vibrate, thinking about what America is all about. But at the heart of what we do in this country is our political system. You run to win and you win to govern, and nobody gets a chance to govern unless they have people like you on their side. Because there's never been a candidate that's held elected office that can say to themselves, I did it all by myself, and there's never been a candidate that's been reelected to office that can pound their chest and say it's all about me. No, it's always about you, and those of us who have been privileged to serve, and I ran 8 times and won 8 times, could never have been elected without county chairman, without dinner chairman, without district chairman, without the rank and file, you have to do those fundamental, basic blocking and tackling of government.